The Mummy's Hand was a 1940 black and white Universal monster film featuring, as you'd expect, a Return of the Mummy character. And my understanding is that this is the second of the three Mummy films from the original Universal Classic Monsters lineup. And I don't think that includes the Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy film, which was, I guess, just kind of its own thing. And I reviewed that one before. That was a lot of fun. But I know this is the second film, and what's different here is that it does not have Boris Karloff, which, is unfortunate. I thought he was great in the first one. He's got that piercing stare, and he's amazing in all of these classic films, but they have a different actor here for the Mummy this time. I'll get into that in just a minute. So the story opens up with the character Andoheb, who is played here by George Zucco. He sort of looks like an Alan Arkin type of guy, and he is seeking out this ancient high priest of Karnak, and meets up with him in this old temple. And this priest gives us the backstory of the character of Kharis. He was an old Egyptian character who basically had lost the love of his life, and he was messing around with forbidden powers of life and death, trying to bring her back. And this was the Princess Ananka, and he got caught, and they buried him alive, wrapped him up in bandages after, cutting out his tongue, which is pretty nasty. And, it was curious. This reminded me actually a little bit of the Brendan Frasier Mummy movie from 1999 and the Imhotep backstory. Kind of a similar thing happened there as well. So anyhow, back to this film, the priest tells this Andoheb about these sacred tana leaves that will work to reanimate the mummy Karnak. Of course, you have to prescribe just the right amount. So what you do is take the tana leaves and the juice from them and give just a little bit to the mummy, and that sort of reanimates him enough to protect his tomb and so on. But too much of that tana leaf juice and the mummy gets powerful and dangerous. So you got to know your limit with the tana leaf. Anyhow, in another part of Egypt, we meet Dick Ferran, who is playing the hero Steve Banning. And he's just kind of a generic hero character. I don't think I've seen him in anything before, but he did a good job here. He's paired with Wallace Ford, who plays Babe Jensen. And he's sort of like a poor man's Lou Costello. And Dick Ferran here plays the straight guy to Wallace Ford's silliness. And, actually, I didn't find Wallace Ford terribly funny, but he did add a little bit of levity and comic relief to what would otherwise just be a straight horror monster film. So the two of them are sort of the duo, the dynamic duo of the film. So this character, Steve Banning, finds a broken vase in Cairo at a bazaar, and he's convinced it has clues that will lead to this ancient tomb for them to discover and, do their research there. Problem is, Steve and his buddy are broke. However, he and his friend Jensen, they meet up with an American magician, Solvani, who's played by Cecil Kellaway, and, they have a few drinks and a few laughs, and they basically talk him into financing their expedition. Now, he's there, this magician is there with his daughter, Marta, played by Peggy Moran, and she comes along as well on the expedition, but initially she thinks these two guys are frauds and they've ripped off her dad. But, we will see that actually they are onto something, and they find this ancient tomb, and, it's the tomb of Kharis, and they're looking to find, treasures and so on. Now, this Andoheb guy shows up, and while all of this, exploring is going on, he manages to reanimate the mummy with a bunch of those tana leaves we talked about. And the monster goes around, and he's kind of killing off the scientists roaming around the camp. Presumably he's looking for more of those yummy tana leaves or whatever. So as we get to the end of the film, and it's not a very long film actually, but the mummy carries off Marta and brings her to this gigantic temple. And I have to admit, the set was pretty cool. It kind of has this Temple of Doom feeling to it. And it's up to the heroes to help rescue her and stop this mummy who's, he's bulletproof. You can't just take him down with bullets, so they got to figure out what to do about this creepy guy. So I'll leave the review at this point. I'll let you check it out for yourself. In the story, it's a little convoluted, but, it's fun. And the ending was pretty exciting. The actor Tom Tyler played the mummy here. And, while he's not as creepy or as intimidating as, say, Boris Karloff, he still does a good job, and the makeup is pretty convincing. It looks similar to what Boris Karloff wore in the first film. And I liked, too, how they kind of added a special effect here, where they would blacken out his eyes to make him look more disturbing. And, the story was enjoyable. And again, this Wallace Ford, he wasn't quite like the Lou Costello level of silliness. He did add a little bit of, goofy humor to the film. And it was a fun story. There's plenty of action, adventure, a little romance. And this one was good. So again, this was the second of the 3 Universal Classic Mummy films. And this one's worth checking out.